Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem HaMashiach Yahweh Shai, who the world calls Jesus Christ. I am your brother Jeremiah Bun Yahweh, and this is Code Media, where we are cutting up lies with the truth. Today, we just gonna talk. We're gonna go through some. We're gonna look at some documents of the Hebrew Israelites. Today, we're gonna look into a book. It's called "From Babylon to Timbuktu," written by Rudolph R. WINDSOR. This is documentation, man. This is not just biblical, but it's historical. So this is how we know that we are the people of the book. All right, so hope you guys tune in, you know what I'm saying, and you check this out, and I hope you get something from it. But let's listen along. All praises, all praises. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. All right. All right, let's take a look, man. Again, the book is called From Babylon to Timbuktu. If you don't have this book, you know what I'm saying, go get it. I have it right here. But it's a very good read, you know what I'm saying? But for those who don't have it, you know what I'm saying, you can listen to what the book says about it, Shalakia, what the book says about it. Again, this book is called From Babylon to Timbuktu. It's written by Rudolph R. WINDSOR, and it has a lot of rich history, rich culture, you know what I'm saying, our culture, our true heritage in this book. All right, so let's check it out.
You are about to hear From Babylon to Timbuktu, a history of the ancient black races, including the Black Hebrews, by Rudolph R. WINDSOR, narrated by Joseph Kent. Copyright 2017 BN Publishing, online at bnpublishing.com. From Babylon to Timbuktu, a history of the ancient black races, including the Black Hebrews, by Rudolph R. WINDSOR. All rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopying, or otherwise, without the prior permission of the copyright owner. Copyright 1976 by Rudolph R. WINDSOR. Cover design Al Hagan. www.bnpublishing.com. Info at bnpub. In addition, he is married to consideration, he established his own company called WINDSOR Golden Series, and in 1988, Mr. WINDSOR redesigned the cover of his first book, From Babylon to Timbuktu. Finally, Dr. WINDSOR over the years has appeared on radio and TV talk shows, lectured at congregations,
kicking up the dirt as I pull up my skirt. When I walk by, bitch, they all on alert. Any more, you could be first. Left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. Jaywalk. Jaywalk.
The entire earth at this time was of one speech and one language. From Babylon to Timbuktu, a history of the ancient black races, including the Black Hebrew, by Rudolph R. WINDSOR. Chapter 1. Ancient Black Civilization. More than 6,000 years ago, in the land called Mesopotamia, there developed the most remarkable civilization then known to mankind. This civilization was centered between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. These rivers begin in the mountains of Armenia and flow in a southeastern direction towards the Persian Gulf. The soil of this area is tremendously fertile because of the alluvial deposits brought down by the two rivers. European civilization developed from ancient black civilization. Without this black civilization, white domination and influence as we know it today would have been improbable. A number of different tribes were entrenched in the southern part of the Tigris-Euphrates River region. This southern section was known at different times by many names, among which are Sumer, Akkad, and Chaldea. But the name best known to us is Babylonia. This area was also the location of the Garden of Eden, and the people of this region were jet black. I shall prove conclusively that the black people have the most ancient history of all humans. The best available source of proof is the history of the Jews, known as the Bible. In Genesis chapter 2 verse 10 it is written, "And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into four heads. There were four rivers which watered the Garden of Eden. I shall cite the third and the fourth rivers first. Then I shall proceed to the first and the second rivers, because it fits better into my line of reasoning." Genesis chapter 2 verse 14 reads, "And the name of the third river is Hiddekal, that is it which goeth towards the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates." Commentators and scholars have identified the river Hiddekal. They say it is the Tigris River. Now I shall cite Genesis chapter 2 verse 13. "And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia." Because the Garden of Eden is associated with the land of Ethiopia, we can conclude that the people were black. Rashi, the 11th century commentator on the Bible, said that the Gihon is the Nile River that bows through eastern Africa. Rashi most likely makes this point because the Nile flows in Ethiopia and into Egypt. Dr. Spicer, who was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, said, "There is no basis for the detouring of the Gihon to Ethiopia." He meant the Ethiopia in Africa, not to mention the Paishan in various remote regions of the world. I agree with Dr. Spicer that we should not search for the Gihon in Africa, nor the Paishan in a remote area of the earth, but that we should search for the Paishan and the Gihon in the Tigris-Euphrates Valley. There were two Ethiopian nations in ancient times, Eastern Ethiopia and Western Ethiopia. This point Dr. Spicer failed to elucidate, possibly because of an oversight. There was an Ethiopian civilization in southern Mesopotamia, Babylon, but the people in this region did not use their tribal name Ethiopia to designate their nationality. They called themselves by the name of the cities that they constructed and inhabited, or they called themselves by the event that happened there. For example, God confused the language of the people at the Tower of Babel. Babel means confusion in Hebrew. This is why the Ethiopian tribes called themselves Babylonians, referring to the name of the city that they constructed. There are many nations that are not designated by their true nationality. For example, the white Australians came from England, but those Englishmen who live in Australia do not call themselves by their ancestral name. They call themselves by the name of the country which they colonized, which is Australia. The people of Australia are represented in the United Nations by the name of their nation, Australia, and not under their ancestral name, England. The people who resided in the lower part of the Tigris-Euphrates Valley were Ethiopian, black in complexion. We read in Genesis chapter 10, verse 8, that Cush begot Nimrod. The word Cush means Ethiopian, and Cush was the father of the Ethiopians. For the meaning of the word Cush, see Webster's New Collegiate Dictionary. Nimrod was a mighty Ethiopian conqueror and builder in the land of Shinar. We find in Genesis chapter 10, verses 8 through 10, that Nimrod ruled over such cities as Babylon, Erech, Akkad. All these cities are situated in the land of Shinar. Another name for Shinar is Sumer. This civilization was a high order and one of the oldest civilizations in ancient times. In Genesis chapter 10, verse 7, we read, "And the sons of Cush, Seba and Havilah." Now we have learned that Havilah was the son of Cush, who was an Ethiopian. The word Havilah became the name of a tribe and a region known as the land of Havilah, and the Havilites, Ethiopians, lived in the land of Havilah. Moreover, scholars have located this land near the Persian Gulf. In search of the land of Havilah, we find that there was another Havilah, who one of the sons of Joktan. Read Genesis chapter 10, verse 26 to 29. But this Havilah was the line of Shem. Reads Genesis chapter 10, verse 22. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The children of Shem are called Shemites. The sons of Ham are called Hamites, and the sons of Japheth are called Japhites. We should not confuse Havilah, the son of Joktan, with Havilah, the son of Cush. Now it is logical to conclude that Havilah, the son of Cush, is intended in Genesis chapter 2, verse 11, to be the Havilah of the land of Havilah, because that Havilah was a Cushite, Ethiopian. His habitation would naturally be adjacent to his brother Nimrod, who ruled Babylon. Abraham was one of the fathers of the 12 tribes of Israel, and Abraham's father Terah came from the land of Ur, or the Chaldees, Genesis chapter 11, verse 26 to 28. The land of Ur of the Chaldees was located at the southern part of the Euphrates. The Chaldeans were one of many Cushite tribes. Cush means black, according to the Bible dictionary. This dictionary defines further Cush, the name of a son of Ham, apparently the eldest, and of a territory or territories occupied by his descendants. The Cushites appear to have spread along tracts extending from the higher Nile to the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers. History affords many connections between Babylon, Arabia, and Ethiopia. There is more than adequate evidence that the ancient nations of Babylon, Akkadian, Sumer, and Chaldea were inhabited by Cushite tribes, Ethiopians, on all sides of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Pishon and the Gihon rivers, mentioned in Genesis chapter 2, verses 11 to 13, wind and turned through the land of Havilah, somewhere near the Persian Gulf. Although it is difficult to identify these 2 rivers exactly, most likely the center of the Garden of Eden was in the lower part of the Tigris-Euphrates Valley. This was the most fertile region in the Middle East, with its many canals and lakes. No wonder it is called the Garden of Eden. It was so well watered that the vegetation looked better than an English park. The Tigris and Euphrates River joined before they reached the Persian Gulf. Then they separate again, making the 4 rivers of the channels of these 2 rivers. This is one of the theories of the top-rated authorities. The modern names of the rivers that flow into the Tigris and Euphrates are the Great Zab, south of Nineveh, the Little Zab, south of the Great Zab, the Diyala. The river flows into the Tigris at Baghdad, Iraq. Sumer and Kish. Before the dispersal of mankind at the Tower of Babel, this region was not called Babylon. It was only after the confusion of the language and the dispersal of the people that the name Babel was given to the tower. This conclusion is reached by way of logic. What was the name of this region and tower before the confusion of the language and the dispersal? Webster's Dictionary, Gazetteer section, says Sumer is the southern division of ancient Babylon. Moreover, this same dictionary says on page 849, Sumerian, the pre-Shemitic population of the lower Euphrates Valley. The pre-Shemitic population means that the black Sumerians were there first. This point is in harmony with my original position that the people in lower Mesopotamia were Eastern Ethiopians. These Sumerians or Ethiopians and their kindred appear to have settled along tracks from Mesopotamia to India. This area now includes southern Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and northwest India. The first and second allusions to Sumer in the Bible are in Genesis chapter 10, verse 10, and chapter 11, verse 1. Under the name Shinar, Webster's Dictionary, Gazetteer section hints to this relationship of Shinar and Sumer. There is definitely a blood relationship between the Dravidian tribes of India and the Ethiopian Sumerians. The Sumerian civilization preceded the Babylonian. The Sumerians founded cities that existed more than 4,000 years BC, such as Eridu, Lagash, Nippur, Kish, and Ur. Archaeologists have found skeletons of ancient Dravidian and Neda types in Ur and Kish, and antiquated Sumerian statues resemble the statues of the Dravidian civilization. Chapter 2: The Origin of the White Race.
Okay, if there's one AI site builder you need to meet, it's this dope tech from Wix.
Okay. We back. All right, all praises, man. So if you tuning in, if you you know what I'm saying, following along, we talking about, you know what I'm saying, this book. It's called From Babylon to Timbuktu. You know what I'm saying? It's written by Rudolph R. Weiser. If you don't have that, you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, you should go get it. You know. Hope I don't get flagged for using that content, but I want to show y'all some things that, you know what I'm saying, for what it's actually talking about, because this is our real history. This is who we are. You know, you have a lot of people that have a problem with that, man. When we say Christ was black, the people of the Bible are black, it's an issue with that. It seems like it's like, you know, when Christ was white, it wasn't no problem. But when we saying that, look, we've been lied to, you know, we haven't been taught history. We was taught his story. You know, when we speak like that, you know what I'm saying, people tend to, you know what I'm saying, make us out to be, you know what I'm saying, the bad guy for bringing out the truth. But this is cult media, man, where we cutting up lies with the truth, man. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to get into another documentary. It's just giving out some more biblical, just biblical things as far as who we are. Because when we speak to our people, when we go out to speak to our people, we ask people, you know, what's their nationality? You know, and a lot of people, you know, they say black or African American. You know, hold on. Matter of fact, let's get a precept on that, because we was, you know what I'm saying, we was called everything. Do you realize this? Black people are the only people, you know what I'm saying, that their nationality has changed throughout the years. You know, we was called a nigger to Afro-American. We was called Afro-American at one point in time. You know what I'm saying? That's a hairstyle, man. You know, the term African-American, Jesse Jackson made that up to try to give us some type of, you know what I'm saying, identity over here in captivity, man. You know, he made that up. You know what I'm saying? Now we just like, okay, you know, so you might call yourself Pan-African. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. On your Dr. Umar. You know what I'm saying? Or you might just be like, you black. Well, black is a color, man. You can't trace the land of black. Black doesn't really have a heritage, you know what I'm saying, like they trying to say. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to get into some more. We're going to get into some more of this. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
Rage amongst Muslims. Need better sleep? We can help. At Mattress Firm's best sale of the year, save up to 70% off top brands.
Praise Yahweh.
So let's check this out. This is another video. Just going over
When
some
Israel was a
history, right?
nation, they agreed to a set of covenant laws at Mount Sinai as part of a special contract with Yah. It meant that they were to be his people, and he would in turn be their Elohim. Now, as with all contracts, which usually involve at least two parties, in this case Yah and Israel, both parties were bound by certain agreements which were spelled out in the contract or covenant. The ancient people of Israel were told that if they obeyed the laws of the covenant, they would have Yah's protection and be showered with many blessings. If they disobeyed, they would receive punishment and suffer many curses. Sadly, our ancestors chose the latter, and following that fateful decision, the nation of Israel was thereafter thrust into a series of events that eventually resulted in a time of trouble and punishment whose ill effects are still felt to this very day.
Sold it to you $890. That's a good buy. $890. All right.
Before long, ancient Israel experienced a civil war and eventually split into two kingdoms, with the tribe of Judah leading a two-tribe kingdom to the south and 10 tribes forming a kingdom to the north. After a period of self-rule, the independence of the northern kingdom was threatened by the Assyrians. We get that account in the book of 2 Kings.
Hoshea, son of Elah, began to rule over Israel in the 12th year of King Ahaz's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 9 years. He did what was evil in Yah's sight, but not to the same extent as the kings of Israel who ruled before him. King Shalmaneser of Assyria attacked King Hoshea, so Hoshea was forced to pay heavy tribute to Assyria. But Hoshea stopped paying the annual tribute and conspired against the king of Assyria by asking King So of Egypt to help him shake free of Assyria's power. When the king of Assyria discovered his treachery, he seized Hoshea and put him in prison. Then the king of Assyria invaded the entire land, and for 3 years he besieged the city of Samaria. Finally, in the 9th year of King Hoshea's reign, Samaria fell, and the people of Israel were exiled to Assyria. They were settled in colonies in Halah, along the banks of the Habor River in Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes. This disaster came upon the people of Israel because they worshipped other deities. They sinned against Yah their Elohim, who had brought them safely out of Egypt and had rescued them from the power of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. They had followed the practices of the pagan nations Yah had driven from the land ahead of them, as well as the practices the kings of Israel had introduced.
This gives us a good picture of why the northern kingdom was punished by being exiled to Assyria. But later, Judah, which was the only kingdom left, also ended up doing that which was not right in the sight of Yah. 2 Kings chapter 24 informs us that the last independent king of Judah, Jehoiakim, reigned for 8 years, practicing evil before Yah unleashed the forces of Babylon on the kingdom of Judah, which ended in that nation being led away captive as well. 70 long years of captivity was experienced in Babylon, and the ancient Israelites witnessed the fall of that empire and the rise of the next. After the 70 years had expired, the new Persian king, Cyrus the Great, allowed the people of Judah to return to their homeland and rebuild. This event was recorded in the scriptures.
Concentrate fire on the target. Enemy battleship sunk. Enemy battleship detected. Enemy submarine spotted. Attention, reporting the target position. Enemy heavily damaged. ship foundered.
I need intelligence data.
Engine boost activated.
Shalom, 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 shalom. You know, that's just some more like a documentary on, you know what I'm saying, on like, you know, some biblical history on who we are, man. You know, on who we are as Israelites. You know, it's more than just, you know, just coming to, we got to come together as Israelites. You know what I'm saying? Up under the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, man. But unless you know who you are, then, you know what I'm saying, it got to start from somewhere. You feel me? It got to start from somewhere. First, you got to know who you are. God created 18 nations. You're not going to find black. You're not going to find Hispanic. You're not going to find African American. You're not going to find white. You're not going to find none of those terms in the Bible. So who are we according to the Bible, man? Let's get to some more. Let's get to some more. You know what I'm saying? Some more videos, and then I'm gonna break down some precepts, and then we're gonna get to some precepts. You know what I'm saying? But let's look at something else. All right, let's look at something else. Hold on 1 minute. Let's see what this brother was saying about the ancient Hebrews. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what this brother was saying. Hold on 1 second. Tell me what you think, man. Make a comment below.
The Greeks, they set up Alexandria in the Alexandria Library, where they took all the information from the interior of Africa and brought it there. And so people could still read the Medu Neter, the Bible, the Torah, the Jewish books. All of them were created during this time period when the Greeks were ruling. You have to understand. So that the whole Exodus, all that was written supposedly almost 2,000 years after it happened. Okay, and their real persecutors were in Canaan. It wasn't even in Egypt. They were persecuted and driven out of Canaan, not Kemet. In fact, during Tahaka's time, Tahaka went to Israel and saved the black Jews. The Persians was going to exterminate their seed off the planet. And the Cushite army came there, defeated the Persians, kicked them out, and saved the Hebrews' existence. So we shouldn't be battling with Hebrew Israelites. We're all one, they owe their whole doctrine to us. And we say dua to y'all. Y'all want to be Hebrews, fine. But just, you shouldn't be at war with the people who are from Kemet. Okay, all right. So I just need people to understand that connection there. And so now, when the Greeks come to an end, and the Romans just engulf them and become them. In fact, the Romans became the new Hebrews also. The Romans exterminated most of the African Hebrews and accessed their wealth. And the Romans will now close the temples permanently in ancient Kemet and make Medu Neter outlawed. So when the Romans took over, doors closed, Medu Neter no longer spoken, temples outlawed. In fact, some of those Kemetic temples now got turned into Christian churches. And so the first Christian churches, they weren't engineers or architects like the ancient TIMBUKTU. They just occupied the temples and put Christian crosses up. When I take people to Luxor, I show you where they plastered the walls and drew Christian saints up there, and stuff like that. But they didn't make it. They just took the Kemetic temples and converted them. So that was happening during this time period of 1000 when the Romans took over to 300 when the Romans totally took over. So by the Nicene Conference, when that was over, after 319, it was a wrap. The Roman had so much might and power at that time that they didn't have any opposition. So they just killed off the foe. Anybody who was against them, they just killed them off. So they were feeding Christians in the lions one day, and then they were the Christians the next day. Okay, no more feeding the lions. Let's get the lions out of here. That's over. Phase 2. We are the new Christians. And they use this as an economic ploy to exploit the world. So it had nothing to do with no godliness, nothing like that. It was to exploit as a capitalistic concept to control the world. And then later you have the Vatican, and the Pope becomes the head of this pantheon. And he even sanctions slavery. The Pope blessing them to go out to get Africans and give them the charter. Yes, you can take Africans from this side, Spain, you take it from this side, you take it from that side, and I give you the blessings. And let me just make this tidbit right now. The Europeans even learned who the Greek philosophers were from the Moors. When they ruled Spain and all of Southern Europe there, they set up the first universities and college. Europeans came there and studied, and that's when they found out. So the Moors told them about the Greek philosophers and stuff like that. So that's where they even got them names from. Europe went through their dark ages. The dark ages is when they got severed from the Eastern world. So they didn't even know nothing about these people. And let me say this, the Greeks and the Romans didn't want anything to do with the Picts, the Germanic tribes, the Anglos, the Saxons. They looked at them, they said they were so backwards that they didn't even make good slaves. And so at this point, you got a conversion here. During this time between 1000 and 300, a whole lot of changes is coming. We're creating a new God. We have to get rid of the old guard, so we got to destroy a lot of people. We got this conflict of, Judaism and all them, so we got to get rid of them. But now we can use that because they're the traders. They control commerce. So the Romans take over that and become the new converts. So that's the first real converts of Europeans becoming the Hebrews. So you got the Canaanites, but a large portion of them is black. And then you got the Romans and the Greeks who convert to Judaism. And then later you got the whole Russian thing, the Khazars and all of that, during the Holy Wars. They're just pagan people, right? And pagan just means not Christians, not, so and so. Okay, so they don't have no real religion. They become Hebrews, did you hear what he said? Because they want to get into the trade. They're selling to both sides. They're selling to the Christians and they're selling to the Muslims. So they're in between. They become Hebrews. They're just moderate. They're the last converts. They don't have nothing to do with the so-called biblical Hebrews. Okay, so the Romans convert over and some of the Canaanites convert over to Judaism. And a lot of the blacks were exterminated during this time period here. So I need people to understand this area of Iraq, Iran, Sudan, that middle, what they call the Middle East. And that terminology was just created during European War I and European War II. There was no Middle East before the European War I. They just created that. It was strategically named to pinpoint this area. Because there's no Middle West, there's no Middle South, there's no Middle North, but we got the Middle East, okay? And that was also strategically to take Egypt out of Africa and put it in the Middle East, okay, to control all of this.
New Sharpie Creative Markers, now in 12 new earth tones. Paint like ink with the precision.
Yeah, Shalom. So, what you guys feel about that, man? About, what I'm saying? Because he was saying like we became Hebrews and all this type of stuff. You get stuff with guys saying whatever, but we gonna go, thus saith, the Lord, man, right? We gonna go, thus saith the Lord, right? Because this is how we know we the people of that Bible. This is how we know. God gave us, signs and wonders to let us know, because he already knew that, our identity was going to be stolen. We was going to be destroyed. We was going to be discontinued from our heritage. The Most High already knew that, but he gave us signs and wonders through the Bible. So we're just going to go through some of those things in the Bible real quick before we end this live, right? Book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 46, it says, "And they shall be upon thee for a sign and a wonder upon thy seed forever." So upon the Israelites are these signs and these wonders. This is how we recognize who we are. We the ones that was given the promises, This is how we recognize ourselves according to the Bible. The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, the whole chapter. We're gonna go through some of those chapters, but the whole chapter clearly explains, what we would go through if we listen and if we didn't, because he made a covenant with who? The Israelites, right? Just starting at verse 1, it says, and this shall come to pass, that if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee high above all nations of the earth. Shalak, of the earth. So he promised that he would set us above all nations. He chose us out of all his creations to set us above all nations, right? So follow along. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28. right? Shalaki. But it's giving us these promises, right? It says, let's go down to verse 3. It says, blessed shall thou be in the city, and blessed shall thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and of the fruit of thy ground, and of the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Verse 7, the Lord shall cause thy enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way and flee before thee 7 ways. So in the beginning, we're seeing that the Most High is telling us he's going to protect us, right? He's going to protect us if we listen to him, right? You know, let's read verse 10. We in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28. See, this is how we identify ourselves according to the Bible. No, let's go to the verse 28, chapter 28, Shalakim, in verse 10. It says, and all the people of the earth shall thy art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee. You know what I'm saying? So we was under the name of Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Yahushua. You know, he gave us a promise. He said we're going to be blessed if we listen to him. We're going to be blessed. Now, this is Moses speaking to the Israelites, telling the Israelites of their future. We just watched a few videos where, our people are captives, been taken over. No, that's throughout our history. We captives now right here in America. But see, this is the last captivity. And when Yahweh shall return, it's going to be the last Exodus. But let's read and see how we identify ourselves to the Bible, right? Because Moses speaking to the people, right? He telling them, like, if you, I'm saying real, God, it chose us to be above all people, right? If you go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6, he says, all right, let's read that real quick. The book of Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6. Let's read that real quick. The book of Deuteronomy chapter 7. Shalagi. Book of Deuteronomy, Shalagi, chapter 7, verse 6, it says, for thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So the Most High chose the Israelites to be a special people unto himself above all people that's on the earth. Because you fast forward, you go to the book, you go to the chapter 28. It says, you know what I'm saying? If we listen to him, he gonna set us above all nations of the earth. So that's what we was meant to be. We was created to be in rulership. We was created to rule. We was created the greatest people on the face of the earth. But this is why we in the situations that we in today. Now let's go down to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28. Let's go down to verse 15. Let's read this, right? It says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and do all his commandments and statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. All these curses. Now, remember when I was just talking about these are the signs and the wonders. We recognize who we are through these curses that's in the Bible, right? So let's read. Let's go to verse 16, right? It says, cursed shalt thou be in the city, Who's cursing the city? We the ones that's cursing the city. We the ones that's cursed in Baltimore. We the ones that's cursed in D.C. We the ones that's cursed in Cleveland. We the ones that's cursed in Chicago. We the ones that's cursed in L.A. We the ones that, you know what I'm saying? We the ones that's cursed in all the cities all over the world. We the ones that's cursed in the city. And it says, cursed shall thou be in the field. Right? Aren't we cursed in the field? When we cursed in the field, when we cursed in the cotton field, and it's a tobacco field, when we forced forced into labor, didn't they rule over us with rigor? Right? So it says, cursed shall we be in the field. Even in the job field. You the last hire and the first fire. So let's read these signs and these wonders of how we recognize who we are according to the Bible. You just seen videos on and that book, and I say go get that book. It's called From Babylon to Timbuktu, right? Matter of fact, I'm about to read something from it. You know what I'm saying? This is page. I think the chapter is called The North African Black Jew. And page 84, right? And it says, in the year 65 BC, that means before Christ, the Roman armies of General Pompey captured Jerusalem. I hope I said that right. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his sons Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. See, they came against us with great slaughter. This is your history, man. It says, during the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed. Shalakia. And atrocities were committed under the residue of the people. During the period of Pompey and Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. Over 1 million Jews. It's like when we say we not Africans, we're not Cushites, we're not Hamites. You know, we're not Africans. It says we fled into that continent, fleeing Roman persecution, coming up out of Jerusalem, man. Right? It says the slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves. The slave market was full of black Jewish slaves. That's that book, man. You gotta do some research. And if you ain't did no real research, then you gotta research your research. Then you gotta research your research. And because I got plenty of books. We gonna bring some of these things out. But let's get back to it, man. In the book of Deuteronomy, right? We talk about the signs and the wonders of how we recognize ourselves as the people that's in the Bible, right? So at the beginning of Deuteronomy, he said, verse 7, it says, the Lord shall cause thy enemies to rise up against thee, to be smiting before thy face, meaning they're going to be destroyed, right? But being that we under these curses, this is what the Lord says now. and the Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thy enemies. Now we being chopped down by our enemies, man. I mean, fast forward today, you know what I'm saying? We killing each other. But you know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying? It's being perfectly designed by our oppressors, man. Right? So it says in verse 25, it says, the Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thy enemies. Thou shalt go one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. And they shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. And they shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. We, via the transatlantic sub-Saharan slave trade, we are the people that were removed to all the kingdoms of the earth. We was taken, fleeing Roman persecution. Right? Now, fast forward today, we cooked out here, man. We don't know what to do. No, we hanging on to idolatry, to this and to that. We dibbling dabbling in Christianity, Islam, all these different types of religions. No, but the Bible says we're gonna grope like a blind man, right? We're gonna grope like a blind man. Let's read that. Verse 29. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and verse 29, and it reads, and thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. We running around trying to grab on to this, grab on to that, and we not prospering. As you can see, we not prospering in none of our ways. Right? Let's read. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. Well, we was talking about that in the last video, but I want you to just bring this out again because no man has saved us. No one has came and saved us. Malcolm X couldn't do it. Louis Farrakhan can't do it. Marcus Garvey can't do it. Fred Hampton can't do it. Martin Luther King can't do it. The Black Panthers nobody can do it. It says no man is going to be able to save us. Nobody but Hamashiach Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus Christ, is going to save us. That's it. But let's look, because people don't think that slavery is in the Bible. Let's read verse 30. And thou shalt betroth a wife, meaning you're going to have a wife, and another man shall lie with her. You've seen them movies. You've seen them. They come get her out the house. She got to go sleep with Massa. You know the story of Chicken George and all that. Little light-skinned little baby. Right? It says, and thou shalt betroth a wife. Because they allowed us to marry. They allowed us to marry during slavery. When they had us in the backyard of the church. And when they finally let us in, that's why the ushers had on white gloves, because they didn't want to touch nigga hands. Right? But they allowed us to marry. But guess what? If Massa wanted your wife, guess what? Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Right? It says, thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. We built those monuments, those plantation houses, them houses. But we weren't allowed to live in there. Only a house nigga was allowed to live in there. But we weren't allowed to live in there. But we was building them. Who you think built it? Who you think built it? Who you think built the White House? Who you think built the White House? Right? What did it say? Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and thou shalt not gather the grapes thereof. So we was planting things. We wasn't able to benefit from it. We had to deal with the scraps. We had to deal with what we can get. You know what I'm saying? You know, even with the pig. You know, we ain't supposed to be eating that anyway, but you know what I'm saying? We got the scraps of the pig. The guts, the feet, the nose, the ears, the scraps. And people turned it around. Niggas turned it around and made it a delicacy, man. It's soul food. Right? But it's an abomination unto the Lord, man. Right? Let's read 32. We in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28. Follow along. It says, verse 32, it says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. Haven't we seen that in the movies? Haven't we seen that in the movies? Where, you know what I'm saying? Where, like in, what's that in Roots? No, Color Purple. Where somebody gets sold to another plantation, they running down crying. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? This is what it says. It says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thy eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand. Shalak. So won't be no might in your hand. What's no might in our ancestors' hands? When your daughter, your wife, anybody gets sold to another plantation, and you fight and you want to keep your baby, you want to keep your husband, you want to keep your wife, but she just got she or whoever just got sold to another plantation. What nothing we can do about it. This history is documented right here in the Bible, man. Right? It's right here in the Bible. Verse 36. And the Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thy set over thee, into a nation which thou nor thy fathers have known. Because God sent a nation over us. Our fathers didn't know about white Jesus. Our fathers didn't know about Christianity. Our fathers didn't know about Islam. Right? It says, and there thou shalt serve other gods, wood and stone. So we serve other gods, idols of wood and stone. Today, we worship idols of wood and stone, whether you realize it or not. The God of wood is that cross. Whether it's engraved in gold and it's around your neck or hanging from your ear or on your shirt or whatever, that cross is the God of wood. It's idolatry. Why would you wear, okay, let me give you a scenario. If your family members, let's just say, you know what I'm saying, Lord forbid it ever happened, but if one of your family members died from, let's say an AK-47, would you want anybody wearing a gold-plated AK-47, you know what I'm saying, around their neck, as so-called homage to your people's death? Whether he was hung on a cross or he was hung from a tree, as it says in the book of Acts, that's a topic of another discussion. But the thing about it was, he was murdered. He was persecuted and murdered, just like any black man that ever stood up for his people. Are you gonna wear that? And the God of stone is is Islam. That's Islam. That's the Quebec stone over there in Mecca. You make the pilgrimage over there. You you throw stones at it, you kiss it, you bow down to it, you walk around it 7 times, right? That's Islam. So you says you're going to worship gods of wood and stone. That's idolatry. That's not who we are biblically. Biblically, we are the Hebrew Israelites. So-called Black, Spanish, and Native Americans, so-called Haitians, you know what I'm saying? You people that were scattered here and abroad via slave ships, we are the Israelites. But this is what's going to happen to us. This is why we don't know. This is the curse that's put on us. This is how we understand who we are. Verse 37, it says, and thou shalt become an astonishment, right? We're going to become an astonishment. Look at these niggas, man. Look at these bugged out niggas. Why you think Donald Trump got the damn National Guard's about to come to Chicago, D.C., and New York, and all these places, man? Because we are an astonishment now. We are destroyed as a people. Right? It says, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword. A byword. We call it everything but a child of God. You know what I'm saying? Now we call Black, African American, we call it Hispanic, we call it Haitian, we call all these all these things that they gave us, all these titles that they gave us. You know, you call yourself Puerto Rican. Are you a Puerto Rican for real? You know, Puerto Rico means port of riches. So that's your nationality, port of riches? That's what you know what I'm saying for real. You know? Are you a Puerto Rican? No, you're not. You are an Israelite, man. From the tribe of Ephraim, man. A holy man above all nations on the earth. But if we knew better, we'd do better, right? So it says, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations wherein the Lord shall lead thee. So everywhere we went, we was called something other than the Israelite. That's how we got destroyed. No. Let's read on. Verse 41. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just pulling out some key factors, man. Right? Verse 41. It says, thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. You know, they had breeding farms. You know what I'm saying? Where they bred us like cattle. You know, we had children, and they took them and sold them off. Black Friday, you had slaves half off, man. You know what I'm talking about? Black Friday, you had slaves half off. Right? What did it say? Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, and thou shalt not enjoy them. Right? For they shall go into captivity, man. That's heavy right there, man. These are the curses that the Most High put upon us, man. Right? Let's read. Verse 45. Moreover, Shalakia, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. You know what I'm saying? Because he gave the covenant to us, and because we refuse to listen, as we do today, this is why we're in the condition that we're in. Right? Let's read some more. Follow along. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. Right? We are the people of this book. Right? Verse 47. It says, because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things, because in the beginning of Deuteronomy 28 says he was going to give us all this. We didn't appreciate that. So it says if you ain't going to listen, all right, then all these curses going to come on you, right? You know what I'm saying? So what it's saying 48. Therefore shall thy serve thy enemies, right? Man, now you got to serve your enemies. Now we have to serve our enemies. Let me read that again. I'm going to start back in 47. Let me get, you know what I'm saying, get this, right? Verse 47. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. Verse 48. Therefore shall thy serve thy enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, right? So they say, well, somebody just woke up one day and decided to put black people into slavery. No, God put these people over us, right? It says, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger. Where we gotta get our food from, right? It says, and in thirst. They charge us for water, G. They charge us for water. In case of water going up, what you know what I'm saying? They taking tap water, putting it in bottles and packaging it up and selling it to you. Talking about it's pure water. Straight toilet water, right? It says, and in nakedness. Where we got to go get our clothes and stuff from, right? It says, and in want of all things. Everything that we have to go to and get, we have to get it from who? Our oppressors, which the Bible says they are our enemies, man. That's what the Bible says. It says, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee, man. Who had those yokes of iron upon their neck? Who was scattered to all the kingdoms of the earth? Whose daughters and sons was given to another people? Who, you know what I'm saying? Who do these signs and wonders, who do they fit to? Let's play this the process of elimination. Did that ever happen to the so-called Chinese man? Or did that happen to the so-called Arab man? No. Let's read on. Let's play the process of elimination right here, right? Okay. Verse 49. And the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. Now, when they talk about as swift as the eagle flieth, you know, of course, the eagle flies, but this is symbolic. You know what I'm saying? All these Edomite nations, they use the symbol of the eagle. Rome, Greece, America. They all use, all these nations where we was captives of, they use the symbol of the eagle. You know what I'm saying? The eagle has landed. All this, you know what I'm saying? So on and so forth, right? So when this was talking about as swift as the eagle flyer, this is talking about these Edomite nations that came over us and put us in captivity, right? It says, and the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far of the end of the earth, as swift as an eagle flieth, whose tongue thou shalt not understand. That tongue was English because we didn't speak that. We spoke Hebrew. You know, we spoke Hebrew. We didn't speak English. You know what I'm saying? Right? Verse 50. It said, a nation of fair countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. They don't care if you young or old, man. They don't care if you're female or nothing, man. Do you know what they was doing to us back in those days, man? You know how they used to take our pregnant women and take them and hang them upside down and take a knife and gut them open and snatch the baby out, you know what I'm saying, real, to install fear into the rest of the slaves. You know how they used to burn us alive, man, and make postcards about it, man? You know what I'm saying? They don't care about the young nor the old, man. Right? But because of these things, right, we are destroyed as a people. Because of these things, because of these curses. And we have to come back as the Israelites. We have to unite as the Israelites. The book of Zephaniah chapter 2 and verse 1, it says for us to gather ourselves together, right? O nation not desired. We are the ones that is not desired. So we are the ones that have to come together. But instead, here's the curses, right? Let's read verse 54. So the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil towards his brother. Now, that ain't on no Diddy, man. Pause. You feel me? It ain't on nothing like that. It's just saying that we was nice to each other, man. We was nice. Men used to look out for each other. Why? Because we had families and stuff to take care of. We looked out for each other. You know what I'm saying? Iron sharpened iron, right? So it says that the man is tender and delicate among you, his eyes shall turn evil towards his brother. Today, our eyes evil towards our people. And you wonder why Donald Trump is bringing in the National Guards now, right? You wonder why Donald Trump is bringing in the National Guards? This is why. Because our eye is evil towards our own people. He says, and towards the wife of his bosom. If you're in a domestic violence situation right now in your relationship, you better get up out of it. You better run. You see any red flag, you better run. She don't go the way you want her to go, you better let her go. Because a lot of us been pushed out of the homes, man. And that's a curse. Single parent homes is a curse. The stigma of black men not being a part of their kids' life is a curse put on our people, right? Let me read that from the top. The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 54. It says, so the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil towards his brother and towards the wife of his bosom, right? That means your baby mama, the one you had kids with. It says, and towards the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. So we know that's a stigma on us. But what about the women? Right? But what about the women? Let's go. Let's go to verse 56. Because it's talking about the women now. This is the curse put on us now. This is the signs and the wonders. This is how we identify ourselves in the Bible. Right? These are the curses that God put on us, right? It says, the tender and delicate woman among you, right? Which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness, meaning she wasn't for the streets. No. She said she wouldn't set the foot upon the ground, man. Right? For delicateness and tenderness. He says her eye, this was going to happen to her, and this was the state of our women today. He says her eye shall be evil towards the husband of her bosom. Nowadays, you got, black men against black women against black men. This is the state we in now. It says her eye shall be evil towards the husband of her bosom, meaning her baby daddy, the one she had kids with. It says, and towards her son and towards her daughter. And she's going to be looking towards your son and towards your daughter, and she's going to be seeing ways like you, you know what I'm saying? And she don't like you, and y'all going against each other. You look just like your damn daddy. You talk just like your damn daddy. Get the hell up out of my face. Right? These are the curses, right? This is how we recognize ourselves. These are the conditions that we in even today. Verse 64, let's read that. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth into the other. That's how he was, via slave ships, right? and there you should serve other gods, which neither nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. We talked about the wood and stone. We talked about the wood being Christianity and the stone being Islam, because either, you know what I'm saying, especially with so-called black folk, we either Christians or Muslims, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I said that the Israelites going to serve gods of wood and stone, right? Here's the kicker right here. The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68. Like I said, this is black history. You know what I'm saying? And we brought out some documents of the Hebrew Israelites. We brought out some documents, we brought out some books. We talked about Babylon and Timbuktu, brought out a couple videos. These are the things, you know what I'm saying, you need to take a look at and understand who you are, because you have a nationality, man. And the great thing about it is you are the best people on the earth. You so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, man. Deuteronomy 7 and 6 says, man, we are chosen, man. But because we didn't listen, because we rejected the Most High, because we don't follow his laws, statutes, and commandments, even back then, it was prophesied in, you know what I'm saying, slavery in the Bible, right? The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68. Let's read that. It says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again. Now, Egypt is a Greek word, a Greek root word that means bondage or house of bondage. That's what Egypt means. So it's saying in this scripture, it's saying, and the Lord shall bring thee into bondage again with ships. Who else was put into slavery or into bondage on ships? The Bible says the Israelites were. So who are the Israelites? Let's read that again. It says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way of I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. Meaning when Moses was speaking that, we weren't going to see that land no more again, because we know what I'm saying, it was over. You know, we got to be returned to our rightful place through Hamashiach Yahushua, who the world called Jesus Christ, right? It says that thou shalt see it no more again. And there, once you get off those ships, thou shalt be sold unto your enemies. Let me let that sink in for a minute, man. Right? It says what? And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondsmen and bondswomen. That means slaves. And no man shall buy you, meaning no man shall redeem you. No man shall save you. No man is going to be able to get you out of this captivity. Nobody is going to get us out of this captivity. Many have tried, all have failed. Nobody but Hamashiach Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus Christ, is going to get us out this captivity, man. And with that being said, my name is Jeremiah Bunya Howard. This is Code Media, where we cutting up lies with the truth. Shalom.